Well, a very, very warm welcome, guys. Hi, it's Cassim, and welcome to another episode of Journal Entries. I want to start off by thanking you so much for joining me. I want to start off by saying I really, really, really appreciate you spending the next kind of half an hour or so with me as I share with you some journal notes, some journal entries, and hopefully it can help you to become a higher, fuller expression of who you're capable of becoming. So I have three journal notes that I want to share with you. The first is I'd like to share with you on the topic of, and some notes that I've been making on nice people can make careless mistakes. That's the first one. The second one is wisdom is so important and most people don't understand why. And the last thing that I want to talk to you on the topic of is I want to talk to you about the fact that this game that we all play to avoid life. So if you've never watched these videos before, by the way, and you've never watched journal entries, let me give you a little bit of preview and the synopsises and the mission and the intention of them. So I originally started journal entries because I wanted to essentially share the message that if you're not rich, if you don't come from a really affluent background, if you're not somebody who is in a position of power and you don't have thousands and thousands of pounds to leave to your children and to your family, you still have knowledge, skills, and the experience that you've gained along the way, and even skills that you've gained along the way that you can actually pass on to your children and people who you love and care for. Because what I believe is that if you want to call yourself a man and you want to say, Cassim, I'm a man, like I've 100%, I've got to the end of my life and I can genuinely, in my opinion, say I've lived a good life. If you wish to say that, in my opinion, I believe that you have to have a successor. You have to have somebody behind you who is going to be elevated to higher emotional states, to higher spiritual states, to higher riches, material, whatever, wealth that you will, than you did. If no one behind you is better because you were here, you cannot possibly call yourself successful. Because really, to be truly achieve success, and the way that I define it through greatness, is that you have to be of service. You have to help somebody else in the pursuit for what you want. In order to do that, you have to help somebody else. You have to have somebody else. So that's why I wanted to start this journal entries. And I hopefully, by me sharing with you these notes, it will get you onto a path where you go and you get your own journal and you start writing down what is success, what is failure. How did you get to be here today? What's your story? How do you define what a good life is? Tell me, you can write down in your own, if we came and had a conversation and we were having a conversation about is politics important, you would then share with me based on thoughts that you've had, actually, Cassim, I don't agree. Politics is not really that important because it doesn't affect most people. Or you could say, actually, Cassim, my personal belief is that religion should be like this, or this is what they should teach in schools. I would love to have that kind of conversation. And the reason why I say this to you, and you may be like, Cass, come on, man. I mean, most people already know this kind of stuff. You would be shocked. I mean, I literally spend every single day asking people questions. And if you have been around me, you will know this. I literally every day ask people questions. Tell me, what is success to you? Tell me, what does it mean to be a man, in your opinion? Tell me, what's a woman's role in a relationship, in your opinion? And you would be shocked at the amount of people who don't. Do you know the usual answer that I get? I don't know, Cass. Why are you asking me that? Oh man, that's too deep, Cass. This is the answers that I get on a frequent basis. I mean, you would think most people could say to you what, in their definition of success is. You would think that most people have thought about what a woman's role is if they're a woman in a relationship. You would think that a man would have thought about, okay, my job is in my life is to do this. You would think most men have figured that out, but they have no idea. They haven't even entertained it. And that's why I say journaling is so important, because it forces you to come up with these philosophical thoughts, with these strategies and tactics. Okay, so let's get into what I want to share with you and the notes that I've been thinking about, and I hope that they add some value to your life and inspire you in some way. So the first thing that I want to share with you, which I briefly mentioned, is this statement and the notes that I've been making on that nice people can make careless mistakes. I've been really thinking about this because, I made a mistake many years ago. And actually, well, let me tell you the story. So about 6 years ago, essentially my life came to a crescendo. Okay, my life exploded where it came to this climax where one day I had a bailiff come to my mum's house. I was still living at home then, and a bailiff came to my mum's house, told my mum that I was in debt. My mum had no clue that I was in debt. He said, if you do not get Cassim to call us and Cassim pay this money, we have a warrant to gain access to your property, take anything that is his, sell it on so that we can settle this debt. My mum had no clue. My mum had no idea any of this existed. I came home after I was an estate agent at the time. I came home and I saw something that I'd only seen once in my life, which is I saw my mum crying. The last time that I'd seen my mum crying was on the day that my biological father died. The next time that I saw my mum crying was because of me. And when that day happened, I said, right, Cass, this cannot happen again. Your mum raised you as a single mum for a long time. She's done incredible things. She's worked in a chicken factory just to get you going. Like she's been a cleaner. She's tried her best to get you to a point where you can have an incredible life. What the hell is going on? That you're now a liar. You don't pay off people. Like you don't pay off your debts. You're not a guy who's got commitment. What's going on, Cass? Right? Because one of the things that I realized when I saw my mum crying was, well, actually, let me tell you what happened. My mum basically didn't... Okay, this is not going to sound like a major thing to you, but let me tell you what happened. My mum, I have brothers and sisters, like 5 of them, and my mum usually would ask me, Cassim, what do you want to eat for dinner? And my mum would usually cook the food that she would usually cook for all of us based on what answer I give. All my brothers and sisters would easily testify because they tell me all the time that apparently I'm mum's favourite, okay? I don't think so, but all of them say this. So what ended up happening was my mum didn't ask me what I wanted to eat for about 3 months. 3 months my mum would cook food and not ask me what I wanted to eat. This is when I knew this was serious. This had never happened in my life. My mum didn't ask me, she just cooked food. And when this started to happen, I knew I'd fucked up. And so I basically realized in that moment, Cass, you're a good person, but something isn't right. You've brought the wrong plan. Something about what you think is right isn't right. Because if you're in debt and you say, because I was saying, I genuinely thought I was a good person. So I was like, well, if you're a good person, why is it that your mum's just found out that you're in debt now? If you say that you've got everything figured out, which I thought I did, why are you in debt then? Why a bailiff coming to your mum's home and asking for money and asking to gain access to her home, her security, her home which she's paid years of mortgages to pay off? Why are they coming to our home saying that they want to repossess? You're a nice guy, but something isn't right, Cassim. And when that day happened, I realized that it is possible to be a really good person but have some fucked up ideas, but be wrong, but make wrong choices. And I'd never really thought about that because I thought, well, if you're a good person, naturally you should kind of make good decisions, right? But I discovered that that is not, it doesn't work like that, right? It is possible for you to have a lot of information. It's possible for you to be a really good person, but make really foolish decisions. And that's when I began to realize that the way in which we make decisions is based on the information that we have. Essentially, that's not technically true. We make decisions based on 2 things. We make decisions, number 1, on the information that we have, and then the other thing that we make decisions on is based on what we've seen. And what I came to realize very quickly as I started looking at myself, analyzing my thoughts, my decisions, my habits, my attitudes, was I didn't know very much. The only information that I had known, the only information that I had was information that I'd either been exposed to or information exposed to by my family, by my friends, by school, or information that I had read at school. I had never picked up a single book on success, a single book on communication, a single book on money. In other words, I only had what I'd been kind of passively given. I had never been active and gone out there and sought out my own information. Let me tell you why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because I have spent an incredible amount of my time looking at people who are ill, people who have injuries, people who have disabilities, people who have been top sports people and they've like had an injury or something and they've had to go and bounce back. And I've been looking at, well, how can somebody mess up, or how can somebody have an injury and then bounce back and get to the top again? And I was particularly looking at hospitals, because what ended up happening was that I met and started studying people who'd had miracles happen in their life, things that were impossible. Somebody was, was a top athlete, got injured, they got told they'll never walk again, but they managed to somehow walk again. And I was like, I don't understand why most people this doesn't happen to, but yet it's happened to you. Why is it that you've managed to break free of your injury and other people haven't? And what I began to notice is that they all do something which I recognize I started doing, but I realized most people don't do, which is why I wanted to share it with you, which is that most people go and get their own information. Most people, if you look at people who have a lot of money, they did not just take the advice of people of school and their parents. They went out and sought their own information about money. If you go and look at people who have really good relationships, they did not just follow what their parents told them or what school had told them. They went out and looked at, how can I improve my relationship? They went out and spoke to a counselor, a pastor, an imam. Let me tell you what prompted me to actually talk about this. I have a friend of mine, and he has had an injury for a long time, and he's gone to loads of doctors, and the doctors that he's gone to basically have been sending him from post to post. They've been saying, go to this personal trainer, go and speak to this physio, and this injury has been going on for like 2 years. And I said to him, okay, so what information have you found out about people who've been through the same situation? And he goes to me, what do you mean? Well, I said, you surely must have studied people and spoken to people who've got the same injury as you and figured out what they did to overcome it. He goes, no, because I'm listening to the doctor and I'm listening to what the doctor is telling me. And I said to him, let me share a lesson that I learned in my life. Sincerity is not a test of truth. Every single one of us is different. Absolutely, there are principles which are common amongst us, but the details are different. Yes, absolutely, me and somebody else can have the same injury, but my circumstances, my destiny, my attitude, my work ethic, my capacity for pain can be more than them. And what I want to share with you and encourage you to do is, in your own life, is go and get your own information. If you're suffering from depression, do you know what I say to people? Study depression. Don't go. I was saying to somebody the other day, because I've had to look at this myself as a counselor, I said to him, do you know what happens when you go to a doctor or a GP and you're suffering with depression? Do you know the only routes that they give you? The only two routes that they can give you is essentially medicine. And I was like, what about spirituality? What about looking at all the different avenues, the non-herbal routes? What about all the different avenues of how to deal with depression? They don't offer those to you. The only path that they can offer you is a medical path. That's all they can do. And I was thinking, so, but what happens if you come off the medicine? If you're still depressed and you come off the medicine, it means you then become dependent on it. And what I'm sharing with you, and really is what I was thinking about, is the fact that so many of us do not go and actually find out things for ourselves. We just take people's opinions as a matter of fact. We just believe people. In fact, actually, weirdly enough, in my book, my first book, which I've written, I talk about these bias, what do I call it? I call it default to truth. there is something, Google it, because I don't have time to go into it because I'm running short of time. But if you want to find out, go and Google this concept called the default to truth, which basically means that if somebody in power or somebody who's older than you gives you information, most of us will take it as fact. If somebody you love tells you that this is a wrong path when you're younger, you will just naturally say, well, it must be. I mean, they love me. In other words, we presume that if somebody's sincere or if somebody's good, then it means that their decisions and their choices and their knowledge and the information that they're giving us must be right. When actually, in reality, that is not true, because we're all different and we all have different circumstances and our details are different. Again, whilst the principles and the laws are the same for all of us, the details are different. And so my question to you is, if maybe you've had an injury for the last 2 years, have you actually gone and done your own research, or are you simply being pushed from post to post, going to doctors and you're simply taking their advice and not your own advice? If you're like Kaz, I don't really know what to do with my life, are you simply taking the advice of only the people in your life, or are you actually going out and doing your own research, reading books, going to seminars, interviewing people who are much older than you? Because that way you actually get your own opinion, right? Instead of being manipulated, instead of being moved from pillar to pillar and never truly finding out information for yourself. And I think it's part of being a man, actually. To truly be a man, one of the things that you have to do is take responsibility. Stop expecting everybody else to give you the answers. Stop expecting everybody else to tell you which way to go. It's up to you to decide which way to go. It's up to you to go and find the answers. If you're in debt, it's absolutely, loads of people can tell you how to get out of debt, but it's up to you to go and figure out how to get yourself out of debt. So that's the first notes that I wanted to share with you. I don't know if it adds any value to you. The second thing that I was writing about and journaling about is this concept of the fact that wisdom is really, 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 really important. And what was driving this on was that I was essentially making some notes on what is missing in the world at the moment. I wanted to know what's missing. When I look around at the world, what's going on? What is causing this chaos and all this confusion and this uncertainty? What is happening in the world that is causing all of this? And I wrote down a few things. So I said, like, leadership. We lack people with leadership, people who have a vision, right? So people who can see a future which is better than what it is. I wrote down that we lack people who care. I think a lot of people are indifferent. A lot of people just don't give a shit. They really don't care. But a lot of people are out to get for themselves. And if I can't get something out of it, then why would I help you? Most people are not in the paradigm of how can I serve you. Most people are in the paradigm of how are you going to serve me? How am I going to get ahead? How am I going to get more money? How am I going to be loved? What are you going to give me? That's the paradigm that most people, I think, are operating from. Most people just don't care. The other thing I wrote down is I think there's a lack of energy. I think a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are exhausted. A lot of people are not motivated. A lot of us are not operating on the highest levels and the highest frequencies of what it means to be a human being. Most people aren't operating from purpose, from mission. If I ask most people, what's your mission? What's your purpose? They look at me as if I'm some nutcase, right? What do you mean, what's my mission? What do you mean, what's my purpose? Right? They look at me like I'm literally like some person who's talking to them from a different planet. I wrote down here that I think a lot of people don't think about going beyond their own family. Right? A lot of people just, unless it's for me, Cass, it's about me and my own family. If it doesn't affect me and my own family, I'm not interested. And I think that's a problem, because then you get into a lack of community. There is no morale. There isn't a lack of everybody looking out for each other. It's kind of like, if it doesn't benefit this family, then why in the world would I care, right? But obviously we know everything is connected, but a lot of people don't get that. And it led me really to one of the other things which I wrote down, which is wisdom. We lack people today who don't have wisdom, right? And I wrote down some things, by the way, which I wanted to share with you on wisdom, because I was making notes on this topic that I wanted to share with you. And I'm just going to share them with you. I might make some notes on a couple of them, but I wanted to share them with you. So this is essentially what I wrote down. So I wrote down that, hold on a minute, let me push this in here. Yeah. So I wrote down, when it comes to wisdom, to wisdom, that a wise person knows when to make an exception to a rule. I wrote down that a wise person knows when and how to improvise. I wrote down that a wise person knows how to use what resources and services to serve other people. You know, a lot of people have a lot of money, but they don't know how to use the money to help other people. A lot of people don't know, a lot of people have knowledge, but they don't understand that even though you're brought up in the UK, you can take your knowledge and go to Africa or go to Nepal or go to India and teach English for 6 weeks of the year. Or you can take the knowledge and all the things that you've learned about marketing and go to a school in India and go there for 2 weeks and teach kids there. You know, apply to a school and say, look, I've worked for this multimedia company for the last 20 years or 5 years in marketing. I want to come in and basically just teach lessons every day, 3 or 4 lessons on marketing. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't have that wisdom. I wrote down that a wise person knows, a wise person is made, not born. So in other words, a person who is wise, wisdom is not inherent, right? Of course, there are some people who are just naturally wise. There's always an exception to every rule. But most wisdom is something that you acquire. You have to work at it, right? I wrote down that a wise person, as a wise person, you don't need to be brilliant to be wise, right? A lot of people think unless I'm bright, unless I'm intelligent, unless I'm rich, unless I've got loads of money, unless I've got influence over loads of other people, then I can't be wise. That's not true. You can be. I wrote down that a wise person here's what I wrote down, that a wise person is a verb, not a noun. In other words, wisdom is something that you actually have to act. You have to do it. It isn't something that you intellectually understand. Of course, there is an aspect of intellectualism that you need, but most of it is a verb. It's about being patient. It's about knowing when to give information. You know, wisdom is something that I've really had to work on, because I have a lot of information that I can tell people, but I have to know when should I tell somebody something. You know, many times I'll look at somebody who's in a relationship and I can already see where their relationship is going. And I have to discern when is the best time for me to give this information. Maybe this isn't the right person for you. Have you two talked about children? Have you two talked about money? Have you two talked about what your vision is? Have you two talked about what your core values are? I have to discern all the time when is the best time for me to help this person or to share this information with people. So I wanted to leave that there, but my point that I wanted to illustrate to you and get to you is that you yourself need to get to the point where you start seeking wisdom. Because unfortunately, a lot of the problems in the world at the moment come from people not being wise. We just don't have an understanding of other people's world. I cannot tell you the amount of people who I coach and who I speak to, and they have a problem in their relationship. And I ask them, okay, give me your partner's perspective on what happened. So the other day I was coaching a guy, and he was telling me he went out shopping with his girlfriend, and when they were shopping, he said to his missus, babes, you should have your mask on. You know, when we're in the shopping centre, because they came out of the car, and he said to her, babes, you should have your mask on. And she said, well, what's your fucking problem? Why are you having a go at me, right? And I said to him, okay, I've seen you. And he was like, you know, she shouldn't be having a go at me, and we should be trying to protect other people, etc. And I said to him, that's a very interesting point of view. So now help me understand the word from your missus' point of view. Tell me why you believe she acted in the way that she acted. And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, that's an issue, because if you don't understand why your missus acted the way that she acted, then you can't even dare to try be sympathetic. You can't even come up to a good conclusion about the situation. You're blaming her, but you don't even know her side of what happened, right? I said to him that we judge other people for what they've done, but we judge ourselves for why we did it. In other words, I said to him that you are judging her for what she said to you and did to you, but if I asked her to explain if I've asked you to explain to me what happened, you tell me what you meant to do. You give me the reasons of why you asked her to do the mask. And I said to him that you have not given me the reasons why she was upset, because you can't even see from her point of view. So we can't even get to a resolution, to a good starting point to our conversation and to move the conversation forward, because you can't even see from her point of view. And I believe that's where many of us are. We can't even move any of the conversations forward because we can't connect. We can't bond today. We can't have community today because most of us are out to defend ourselves and to force people to see from our perspective, but we refuse to see from other people's perspective. We refuse to see why they did what they did. And so it's just something that I would share with you. I don't know if it's helpful for you or not, but it's something that I'm constantly thinking about. The last information and thoughts that I wanted to share with you, which I've been making notes on, is on this topic of this game that most of us are playing, which is to avoid life. I have what I call inconvenient truths. So an inconvenient truth is something that I find in my research or my study that I don't want to know. Right? I don't want to know. It contradicts what I think I know. It contradicts what I kind of would like it to be, and it's upsetting, and I don't want to know. I don't want to hear it. For example, when I found out that most people, after the age of kind of 25, they're not going to do anything new with their life. Like, you can almost predict that for most people, what they're doing at 25, that's the way they're going to be at age 75. See, I don't want to hear that, because it's a horrible thing for me to hear, right? What's another inconvenient truth? Another inconvenient truth is, for example, me hearing that, most of the people who file for divorce are the women. Like, the huge majority of the people who file for divorce are women. So obviously my question was, well, why is it that so many women are filing for divorce? Why don't the men file for the divorce, right? And then I was like, well, as I started to look at it, it's like most men are cowards. Most men put women in a position where they are forced, because women are patient and women are forgiving, but the men push the woman so far to the degree that the woman feels that she cannot stay in the relationship. I don't want to hear that, because that's telling me that, when I start looking at the statistics and that's telling me that my friends, when I look at the data, that's telling me that I know that most marriages, more than 50% are going to end in divorce. So that's telling me that most of my friends are going to push, and myself, we're going to push women so far to the degree that the woman is going to want to get a divorce from us. I don't really want to hear that. And so one of the other truths that I came to realize is that until you accept that you're going to die, you can never fully live. Until you get to the point where you're like, boy, I'm actually going to die. Like, my life is going to be over. Then and this is why I say it's an inconvenient truth, because when I was writing my book, I had to talk a lot of the book is actually, I write a lot about death, because truly living and death are yin and yangs, right? They are in Buddhism they call it inter-a. They coexist. You cannot have life without death. You cannot have death without life. They both exist in the same space. In fact, I was sharing with somebody the other day that one of the highest levels as a man that you can reach is to get to the point where you can accept contradictions. Because how can you be somebody how can you have somebody who accepts death but is also happy? It doesn't make sense to be like that. You would imagine that if somebody accepts death and welcomes death, then they would also be depressed, right? But that's not how life works. And a lot of people refuse. If you actually look at most people are one thing or the other. Most people see the world in black and white. It's either I support United or I support Arsenal. I'm either Labour or I'm Conservatives, right? I'm either for, I either like festivals or I don't like them. I either like drugs or I don't like drugs. But obviously most of us know life is a lot more complicated than just black and white, right? And that's why I say that one of the highest levels of manhood is to get to the point where you can hold contradictions, where you can still believe what you believe, but also accept that somebody else's contradicting belief is also true to them. It may not be how you choose to live your life or what you believe, but to them, it is their truth. And I wrote down some things here related to death that I wanted to share with you briefly. I don't know if it's going to be a benefit. Here's what I wrote down. I wrote down that human beings are so smart that we actually recognize that we exist, and being alive and knowing it is grounds for great joy. But it also carries a heavy burden. Because if you know that you are here, you also know that all living things at some point have to die. Isn't that interesting? If you accept that death is going to happen to you, you also inevitably accept that at some point you're going to die. And if you accept that you're going to die, for a lot of people, it is not grounds for celebration. It is grounds for depression. It is grounds for, well, my life is over. I mean, what's the whole point of it? Most people don't use the fact that they're going to die as fuel to live to be their highest, fullest expression of themselves. They use it as a break to stop themselves from truly living. That's why a lot of people live in denial. A lot of people end up rushing their life when they get to like 50, because at 50, what happens, which most people don't think about, which I've had to realize because I've studied and spoken to so many people who are much older, is when you get to like 50, 60, a lot of your friends start dying, right? Most people don't, obviously, this doesn't occur to them when they're younger. But when you start getting to 40, 50, 60, 70, loads of your mates start dying. And so death becomes a reality in your life. It's tangible. You start going to people's funerals. Your friends start having knee operations. People start having heart attacks. It becomes a reality in your life that you cannot avoid. But when you're younger, a lot of people avoid it. And actually, so that's why you tend to find that people who are happier tend to be older, because they don't give a shit. They're going to die anyway, so what the hell? They don't care about what you think. They don't care if you don't like their decisions. They're going to be themselves. They don't care if you don't like their opinion. That's your problem, right? Because they realize you're going to die. And so what I would share with you is, don't get into this game of tiptoeing your way through life. Start going on this path where you come to the realization that at some point, your life isn't going to no longer be here. You will die. It's horrible to say it, but it's the truth, right? They say that the truth is incontrovertible. Malice might attack it. Other people's opinions may derive it, but yet it still exists. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It's still the truth. Nobody has been able to avoid this thing called death. Throughout history, nobody has. The Egyptians even tried to, keep their bodies for a long time, but still, even they did not manage to do it. The last thing that I want to share with you on a note, because I know we've run out of time, is that religion offers us reprieve from the fear of death, as all religions in one way or another give us an opportunity for our soul or spirit to continue, whether that be through someone's heart or going through heaven. So if you actually look at it, a lot of religions, and I was writing about this actually in the week, a lot of the reason why people go to religion isn't because actually at the center now. On the outside, it may be like they just want to, whatever, have security, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it at the center of it, a lot of people go to religion because religion offers them a reprieve from death. Religion offers you this opportunity. What does religion? Most religions say, if you die, you can go to heaven. If you die, your soul will carry on. If you die, people will still remember you. You'll always be in people's hearts. But if you don't have that pressure of life, of death, becomes almost overwhelming. That's why a lot of people live in denial. They don't want to know. I don't want to talk about death, Cass, because it's too much. It's too much for most people. But actually, to truly live and to truly have an abundant, fruitful life, you've got to welcome death. Because when you welcome death, you're then like, actually, I have nothing to lose here. Let me do what I can do. Let me do what I love to do. Let me do what I'm good at. And that's why you tend to find that people who have changed the world have been people who've said, I am willing to be killed for what I believe. I don't care if you kill me. I would rather go to jail. I'd rather die in the face of what I believe. Because they've given up. They don't care anymore. What does it matter? They've been here and they believe something so strongly, and they've accepted death and said, you know what, we're all going to die anyway, so I might as well go after and fight for what I believe in. Those are the people who've changed the world. I wonder if that's you who I'm talking about. Are you one of these people who've embraced life and death, and you've said, you know what, Cass, life is too short. We've probably got 70 years on this planet. I'm just going to go for it, man. Right? I wonder if that's you or it's not. So that leaves you with the journal notes. I don't know whether I've inspired you to start your own journal, write down what success, failure, good, bad is. But I encourage you to start on that path. I encourage you to begin to do that for yourself. I want to thank you so much for watching. I encourage you to like and subscribe to my channel Cassimotive on YouTube if you want to join our community and support me. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.